I sit in what used to be our living room, surrounded by half-packed boxes and the ghost of a marriage I thought would last forever. My name is Megan. I'm 47 years old, and 6 months ago, I would have told you I had it all figured out. A solid marriage of 12 years, a comfortable life, a husband I trusted completely. That was before my grandmother died, before I learned what people are really capable of when money enters the picture, before I discovered that the man I'd been sleeping next to for over a decade was someone I didn't know at all. This is the story of how $195,000 showed me the truth about my marriage, and how an inheritance meant to honor my grandmother's memory turned into a battlefield that would cost me everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning, on an ordinary Tuesday morning in March, when my phone rang and changed everything. I was in the kitchen making coffee when my phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, my finger hovering over the decline button, but something made me pick up. "Is this Megan Parker?" A woman's voice, professional and slightly somber. "Yes, this is she." "Miss Parker, my name is Linda Chen. I'm an attorney with Morrison & Associates. I'm calling regarding the estate of Eleanor Walsh. I'm very sorry for your loss." My grandmother, Granny Eleanor. She'd passed away 3 weeks earlier at the age of 89, peacefully in her sleep according to the nursing home. I'd been there 2 days before, holding her hand, telling her about my week. She'd smiled at me with those sharp blue eyes that never seemed to age, squeezed my fingers, and told me she loved me. I hadn't expected her death to involve lawyers. "Thank you," I managed, "but I don't understand. Why are you calling me?" "Your grandmother named you as the primary beneficiary of her estate. I'll need you to come to our office to discuss the details, but I wanted to reach out personally, given the substantial nature of the inheritance." Substantial. The word hung in the air like a question mark. Granny had lived modestly in a small apartment at Riverside Senior Living for the last 5 years. Before that, a little house in the suburbs that she'd sold when Grandpa died. She clipped coupons. She wore the same winter coat for 20 years. The idea of her having a substantial anything seemed impossible. "I'm sorry, I think there might be some mistake," I said. "My grandmother didn't have much, just her Social Security and—" "Miss Parker, your grandmother's estate is valued at approximately $195,000. This includes liquidated investments, savings, and the proceeds from a life insurance policy. When can you come in to discuss this?" Gripped the counter. $195,000. Nearly $200,000. I couldn't breathe. My husband Marcus walked into the kitchen at that moment, fresh from his shower, rubbing a towel through his hair. He saw my face and stopped. "What's wrong?" I held up a finger, trying to focus on what the lawyer was saying. We made an appointment for Thursday afternoon. I thanked her call, then just stood there, staring at my phone. "Babe, what happened?" Marcus came around the counter, concern in his dark eyes. He was handsome, my husband, 49, starting to gray at the temples in a way that made him look distinguished. He worked in pharmaceutical sales and had that easy charm that made people trust him instantly. "That was Granny's lawyer," I said slowly. "She left me money. A lot of money." "How much?" "Almost $200,000. Marcus's eyes widened. Then, after a beat, he broke into a huge smile and pulled me into a hug. "Holy shit, Meg, that's incredible. That's life-changing. We can finally renovate the kitchen. Maybe take that trip to Italy we've been talking about. This is amazing." "We." He said we. At the time, I barely noticed. Of course he'd say we. We were married. We were a team. We'd been together for 14 years, married for 12. What was mine was ours. I hugged him back, but something felt off. Not wrong exactly, just off. Like when you bite into an apple and the texture isn't quite right. I pushed the feeling away. "I can't believe Granny had this much saved," I said into his shoulder. "She lived so simply. I had no idea." Your grandmother was a smart woman. She obviously wanted to take care of you." He pulled back and looked at me, hands on my shoulders. "This is a blessing, Meg. We've been working so hard, and this is just... it's going to change everything." He was right. It did change everything. Just not in any way I could have imagined that morning. The rest of that day passed in a blur. I called my sister Amy, who lived in Portland with her husband and 3 kids. She was happy for me, genuinely so, though I could hear the hint of surprise in her voice that Granny had left everything to me. Amy and Granny had never been as close. Amy was busy with her kids, and Granny had always been more my person. She'd practically raised me during the years when my mother was too depressed to get out of bed, when my father worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. I called my mother too, who cried and said Granny would want me to be happy, to use the money wisely. My father, practically as always, suggested I meet with a financial advisor before making any big decisions. Marcus told his parents that evening. We'd gone to their house for dinner, something we did every Tuesday. I would have preferred to keep it quiet for a while, but Marcus was excited. He couldn't help himself. "Sharon, David, you're not going to believe this," Marcus announced as we sat down in their dining room. Megan inherited almost $200,000 from her grandmother. I watched his mother's face transform. Sharon was 63, artificially blonde, with the kind of tight smile that never quite reached her eyes. She'd never warmed to me in all the years I'd known her, though she was always perfectly polite. Her eyes went wide. $200,000? She repeated. "My goodness, that's quite a windfall." "Isn't it great?" Marcus beamed. "We're thinking about finally doing that kitchen remodel, maybe a vacation." His father, David, a retired insurance agent with a red face and a booming voice, clapped his hands together. "Well, congratulations, Megan. Your grandmother must have been quite the saver." "She was," I said quietly. I didn't want to talk about this. Not here, not with them. But Marcus was still going. "And the timing is perfect, right? With the roof needing work and Marcus's car starting to have problems, this is just, it's a gift from above." Sharon nodded slowly, her eyes calculating. I'd seen that look before, usually when she was planning something. "You know," she said, reaching for the salad bowl, "it's wonderful that your grandmother thought of you, Megan. Of course, now that you're married, this kind of blessing really belongs to the whole family, doesn't it? That's what marriage is, after all, sharing everything." Something cold settled in my stomach. "It was my grandmother's money," I said carefully. "She left it specifically to me." Of course," David said, waving a hand. "But Sharon's right. You and Marcus are a unit now. What affects one of you affects both of you. This is a family blessing." I looked at Marcus, expecting him to say something, to gently remind his parents that this was my inheritance, my grandmother's final gift to me specifically. But he just smiled and reached for the breadbasket. That was the first breadcrumb. I didn't recognize it then as the warning it was. Thursday afternoon, I sat in Linda Chen's office, surrounded by mahogany furniture and law degrees on the wall. She was in her 50s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, and she walked me through everything with patience. Granny had been far more strategic than I'd ever realized. She'd invested carefully over decades. She'd maintained a modest life insurance policy. She'd sold her house and lived on a small portion of the proceeds, investing the rest. And she'd left very specific instructions. "Hard. Your grandmother was very clear in her will," Linda said, sliding a document across her desk. "The entire estate goes to you, Megan. She included a letter that I'm required to give you as well." She handed me an envelope. My name was written on the front in Granny's shaky handwriting. I opened it with trembling fingers. "My dearest Megan, if you're reading this, I've gone on to whatever comes next, and I hope I found your grandfather again. I've missed him every day for the last 8 years. I'm leaving you everything I have because you are the light of my life. When your mother couldn't care for you, when you needed someone, I was honored to step in. You made my life richer in every way that mattered. This money represents a lifetime of careful choices and small sacrifices. Your grandfather and I didn't take lavish vacations or buy expensive things. We saved because we wanted security and because we wanted to leave something for the people we loved. She was very specific, Linda said gently. The money is to be kept in your name only. She was quite clear about that in our conversations. She wanted to ensure you had independent financial security. I nodded, unable to speak. Granny had known. Somehow she'd known that I would need this guidance, that I would need someone to tell me it was okay to keep this for myself. I drove home in a daze, the letter in my purse feeling like it weighed 100 pounds. When I got home, Marcus was already there, sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop open. Hey, how'd it go? He jumped up, excited. Is everything official? Can they transfer the money? It went fine, I said, setting my purse down. It'll take a few weeks for everything to clear, but yes, it's official. That's amazing. He pulled me into a hug. I've been doing some research. I think we should pay off my car first. That's $15,000. Then maybe tackle the credit cards. That's another $8,000. After that, I pulled back. Marcus, can we slow down? I just got the news confirmed a few hours ago. He looked confused. I'm just trying to be practical, babe. We have some debts that this money could really help with. It's smart financial planning. Those are your debts, I said quietly, from before we were married. His expression changed, became cooler. We're married now, Meg. There's no your debts and my debts. There's just us. I thought about Granny's letter, about her clear instructions. My grandmother left this money to me specifically. She even wrote a letter about it. She wanted me to have financial independence. Financial independence? Marcus laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. From what? From me? I'm your husband, not some stranger. Are you seriously going to let a letter from a dead woman? I'm sorry, I know she was your grandmother, but still, are you going to let that come between us? I felt like I'd been slapped. She's been dead less than a month, Marcus. He had the grace to look ashamed. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just excited about the possibilities, and I got ahead of myself. He took my hands. Let's just sit with this for a few days, okay? No decisions yet. We'll figure it out together. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that the man I'd married for 12 years was the same man standing in front of me. So I nodded and let him pull me into another hug. But that cold feeling in my stomach had turned to ice. Over the next week, something shifted in my marriage. It was subtle at first, easy to dismiss as stress or coincidence, but the shifts kept coming. Marcus started sleeping on his side of the bed, no longer reaching for me in the night. He'd always been affectionate, always been the one to initiate contact. Now there was this careful distance. He stopped asking about my day, stopped telling me about his. We moved around each other like polite roommates instead of partners. His parents started calling a lot. Sharon called on Monday. Just checking in, dear. How are you handling everything? Such a big change, inheriting all that money. You must be feeling overwhelmed. I'm okay, I said cautiously. It's a lot to process. Of course it is. You know, David and I were talking, and we wanted to share some thoughts with you. We've been through our own financial ups and downs, and we've learned a lot. Maybe we could take you to lunch this week, share some wisdom. I made an excuse about being busy at work. I managed a small bookstore downtown, and we were preparing for a big author event that weekend. David called on Wednesday. Same friendly tone, same offer. Your generation doesn't always have the experience with money that we do, Megan. Let us help you make smart decisions. That's what family does. I deflected again. Sharon called on Friday. This time the friendly veneer was thinner. Megan, we're just trying to help. I don't understand why you're avoiding us. We're Marcus's parents. We're your family now. Don't you think you owe us at least a conversation? I don't owe anyone anything, I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. This is my inheritance from my grandmother. I appreciate your concern, but I'll handle my own finances. There was a long pause. "I see," Sharon said coldly. "Well, I suppose we know where we stand then. I'll let you go." She hung up without saying goodbye. That night, Marcus came home late. He'd been working late a lot that week, which wasn't unusual, but this felt different. When he walked in, he didn't kiss me hello. He went straight to the bedroom and closed the door. I gave him 20 minutes, then followed. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. "Marcus, what's wrong?"
He looked up at me and his eyes were hard. "My mother called me. She's really hurt, Meg. She and my dad just wanted to help you, and you basically told her to go to hell." "I did not say that. I said I wanted to handle my own finances." Same thing in her mind. "They're my parents, Meg. They raised me. They helped us when we needed it, remember? When I was between jobs 3 years ago, they loaned us $10,000 for the mortgage. And we paid them back," I said. "Every penny. That's not the point. The point is family helps family. And now you have this money and you're acting like it's some big secret that you need to protect from everyone, including me. It's not a secret. It's just mine. Granny left it to me for a reason." He stood up and I took an involuntary step back. I'd never been afraid of Marcus, but the look on his face was something I'd never seen before. Pure anger.
"You know what I think?" he said, his voice low. "I think you're being selfish. I think you got a taste of money, and now you think you're better than us. Better than me, better than my parents. Like you don't need any of us anymore. That's not fair, isn't it?" He grabbed his pillow off the bed. "I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. I need space from this, from you." He walked out, and I stood there in our bedroom, alone, wondering how we'd gotten here, wondering if I'd imagined the entire 12 years of our marriage, because this man, this angry stranger, wasn't the Marcus I knew. I thought the $10,000 his parents had loaned us was the issue. I thought that was what this fight was really about. Some perceived debt we owed them, some expectation of reciprocity. I didn't realize it was just the beginning of how deep this went.
The next morning was Saturday. I woke up alone, Marcus's side of the bed cold and untouched. I could hear him moving around in the guest room, getting ready for his day. He left the house without saying goodbye. I sat in the kitchen with my coffee, staring at nothing, trying to understand how my life had fallen apart so quickly. 3 weeks ago, I'd been happily married. Now my husband wasn't speaking to me, and his parents thought I was selfish, all because my grandmother loved me enough to leave me money. My phone rang. Amy, my sister. I answered gratefully, desperate for a friendly voice. "Hey, Meg, how are you holding up?" "Not great," I admitted. I told her everything: the lawyer's office, Granny's letter, Marcus's reaction, his parents' constant calls, the fight last night. Amy was quiet for a long moment. "Meg, I need to tell you something. Please don't be mad." My stomach dropped. "What?"
"Marcus called me yesterday. He wanted to know if Granny had left me anything, if she'd split the inheritance between us." "Why would he? What did you tell him?" I told him the truth, that Granny left everything to you, and that I was fine with it. You were always closer to her. It makes sense. But Meg, the way he asked, it felt weird, like he was trying to find some angle, some way to prove that the money should be split differently. I closed my eyes. What else did he say? He asked if I thought it was fair, if I was upset. I think he wanted me to say I was angry, so he could use it as leverage with you. But I'm not angry, Meg. I'm happy for you. Granny wanted you to have this. That's her choice, and I respect it. After we hung up, I sat with this new information. Marcus was calling my family, trying to build a case against me, trying to find allies who would agree that I was being unreasonable. That's when I started to understand. This wasn't about helping me make good financial decisions. This wasn't about family unity or shared resources. This was about control.
about Marcus and his parents feeling entitled to money they had no claim to, about them believing that my inheritance was theirs by association. I pulled out my laptop and opened our shared bank account. We'd always maintained one joint account for household expenses and one personal account each. I'd never had reason to check the details before. We trusted each other. I scrolled through the recent transactions. Electric bill, groceries, car payment, normal stuff. Then I went back further, looking at the patterns over the last year. That's when I saw them. Transfers from our joint account to Marcus's personal account. Small amounts, 50 here, 100 there. Nothing that would raise alarms individually. But when I added them up over 12 months, it came to over $4,000.
$4,000 that he'd moved from our shared household account into his personal account without telling me. My hands were shaking. I went back further. 2 years. 3. The pattern was there, going back almost to the beginning of our marriage. Thousands of dollars transferred quietly, month after month. I thought about all the times I'd suggested we needed to cut back, all the times I'd skipped buying something I wanted because we needed to save money, all the times I'd felt guilty for spending $30 on a new book. And Marcus had been quietly siphoning money into his personal account the entire time. I grabbed my phone and called the bank. "Hi, I need to make some changes to my accounts."
Within an hour, I'd done several things. I'd removed Marcus as a signer on my personal account. I'd changed my direct deposit at work to go only into that personal account instead of the joint one. And I'd opened a new checking account, entirely separate, where the inheritance money would be deposited when it came through. Then I called Linda Chen, the lawyer. "Linda, I need to know something. Is there any way Marcus can claim part of the inheritance? We're married. Does that give him automatic rights to it?" She was quiet for a moment. In most states, inheritance is considered separate property, not marital property, as long as you keep it separate. Don't deposit it in a joint account. Don't use it to pay joint debts. Keep it in your name only, and legally it remains yours, even if you divorce. Divorce. She'd said divorce. Like she knew where this was heading, even before I did.
And I've been doing this for 30 years. I've seen this situation before. People show you who they are when money's involved. Pay attention. Protect yourself. Marcus came home late that afternoon. I was in the living room, still processing everything I'd discovered, when he walked in. He looked tired, almost defeated. "Meg, we need to talk." "Yes," I agreed. "We do." He sat down across from me, not next to me. That alone told me everything. "I talked to my parents today. They're really hurt. They feel like you're shutting them out." "I found the transfers, Marcus." He blinked. "What transfers?" "From our joint account to your personal account. Thousands of dollars over the last several years. Money you took without telling me." His face went pale, then red. Those were for things I needed, for work expenses, for what? We agreed to split household expenses 50-50. Everything else was supposed to be our own responsibility. That's what we set up. And you've been quietly moving shared money into your account while I've been trying to save every penny. You're being dramatic. It's not like it was that much money. It was over $4,000 last year alone, Marcus. Maybe more. I'm still looking. He stood up, pacing. "Okay, fine. Maybe I should have told you. But we're married, Meg. Married people share resources. It's not like I was stealing from you. But it was okay for you to take from our joint account without asking, while making me feel guilty every time I spent money on myself? That's different. How?" He stopped pacing and looked at me, and I saw something new in his eyes, something calculating. "You know what? You're right. Let's talk about everything. Let's be completely transparent. I took some money from our joint account over the years for things I needed. And now you have almost $200,000 that you're refusing to share with me, with us, with our marriage. So who's really being selfish here? Granny left that money to me, specifically to me. Your grandmother was an old woman who didn't understand how marriage works. She probably didn't even remember that you were married when she wrote that will. We should contest it. My parents think we should contest it." And there it was, the truth. He'd been talking to his parents about contesting my grandmother's will, about trying to take money that she deliberately left to me. "Get out," I said quietly. "What?" "Get out of this house, tonight. Go stay with your parents since you're so close with them. But I want you out. You can't kick me out of my own house. It's a rental, Marcus. Both our names are on the lease. But I'm telling you, if you don't leave tonight, I'm going to start making calls. I'm going to call a lawyer. I'm going to call your boss and ask him if he knows about the work expenses you've been charging to our household account. I'm going to make this very ugly, very fast." I was bluffing about calling his boss, but I was dead serious about the lawyer. Marcus stared at me like he'd never seen me before. "You've changed," he said finally, "ever since you got that money. You're not the woman I married." "You're right," I said. "The woman you married would have let you walk all over her, would have given you and your parents whatever you wanted because she was too afraid of conflict. That woman is gone. Granny's gift was showing me who I really am and who you really are." This is hard. He left that night, packed a bag, and walked out without another word. I stood in the doorway and watched him drive away, and I felt nothing. No sadness, no regret. Just a cold, clear certainty that this marriage had been broken long before Granny died. I'd just been too blind to see it. But I still didn't know how broken, how much worse it was about to get. The next few days were quiet, eerily quiet. Marcus didn't call, didn't text. I went to work, came home, and existed in this strange liminal space where my marriage was ending but hadn't ended yet. Then on Wednesday evening, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Sharon and David standing on my porch. Sharon was holding a casserole dish. David had his hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. "Megan, dear," Sharon said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "we brought you dinner. We thought you might need some comfort food during this difficult time." I wanted to close the door in their faces, but I'd been raised to be polite, and old habits die hard. I let them in. We sat in the living room, the casserole on the coffee table between us. Nobody touched it. "Marcus told us what happened," David said. "He's staying with us for a while. He's very upset." "I'm sure he is," I said neutrally. Sharon leaned forward. "Megan, we're not here to take sides. We're here because we care about both of you, and we want to see this marriage work. Whatever's going on, it can be fixed." "I don't think it can." "Of course it can." Sharon's voice went shrill. "All marriages go through rough patches. This is just about money, and money is such a silly thing to let come between two people who love each other. Marcus has been taking money from our joint account for years without telling me, and you and David have been pressuring me to give you part of my inheritance. That's not love. That's manipulation." David's face went red. "Now hold on just a minute. We never pressured you to do anything. We offered advice, which is what parents do. If you interpreted that as pressure, that's on you. You called me 3 times in 1 week. You told me I owed you a conversation. You said that Granny's gift to me was really a family blessing that should be shared. That's not advice. That's pressure." Sharon set down her teacup with a sharp click. "I can see that you're determined to play the victim here. Poor Megan, everyone's trying to take advantage of her. Well, let me tell you something, young lady. We helped you and Marcus when times were tough. We loaned you money when you needed it. We welcomed you into our family even though you came from nothing. And this is how you repay us? By hoarding money and destroying our son's marriage?" I stood up. "I came from nothing? My grandmother just left me almost $200,000 because she was smart and careful and knew how to invest. She was a better role model than you'll ever be. And that loan you keep bringing up? We paid it back, with interest. You don't get to hold it over my head forever. How dare you speak to me that way? How dare you come into my home and insult my family?" I was shaking now, all the anger and hurt of the past weeks boiling over. Granny was worth 10 of you.
She loved me, actually loved me, not because of what I could give her, but because of who I was. And I'm done letting you and Marcus make me feel guilty for accepting her gift. David stood up too. You're going to regret this, Megan. Marcus is meeting with a lawyer tomorrow. He's going to fight for what's rightfully his. Half of that inheritance, half of everything you own. And we're going to help him do it. Then I guess I'll see you in court, I said, my voice steady despite the fear coursing through me. Now get out of my house. They left, Sharon snatching up her casserole dish with an offended huff. I locked the door behind them and stood there trembling. They were going to fight me. Marcus was going to sue me for half the inheritance. I called Linda Chen first thing the next morning. They're coming after the money, I told her. His parents just told me he's meeting with a lawyer. Then you need to file first, Linda said. File for divorce before he does. And let me refer you to someone who specializes in divorce with complex financial situations. Her name is Patricia Torres, and she's the best. Patricia Torres was 58, with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. I met with her that afternoon, taking a long lunch from the bookstore. I told her everything, my voice breaking in places, but pushing through. Without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she looked up at me. Here's what you need to understand, she said. In this state, inheritances are separate property if they're kept separate. You've already done the right thing by putting the money in a separate account. As long as you don't commingle it with marital funds, it stays yours. But Marcus's lawyer can argue whatever they want. They can claim emotional distress. They can claim he's entitled to compensation for supporting you during the marriage. They can claim the moon is made of cheese. Doesn't mean a judge will agree. The law is clear. What about the money he took from the joint account? Patricia smiled, and it was fierce. That's called financial misconduct. If he took money from a shared account without your knowledge or consent for his personal use, that's something we can use. It shows a pattern of financial dishonesty. Over the next week, I gathered documentation, bank statements going back 5 years, emails between Marcus and his parents that I found in our shared computer, text messages where Sharon mentioned getting what we deserve from this situation. I also found something else, something I'd missed before because I'd never had reason to look. Marcus's credit card statements from his personal account. He'd left them in a folder in his office, and I went through them one evening with my heart in my throat. There were charges I didn't recognize, restaurants I'd never been to, hotels, expensive gifts from jewelry stores, all on dates when he'd supposedly been working late or traveling for business. I took pictures of everything with my phone, my hands shaking. Then I sent them to Patricia. She called me within the hour. Megan, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Has Marcus been faithful to you? I thought about all those late nights, all those business trips, all those times he'd been distant and distracted. I don't know, I whispered. But I don't think so. We might have grounds for an at-fault divorce. If we can prove infidelity, the judge might view his claim to marital assets very differently. I filed for divorce the next day. Patricia hand-delivered the papers to Marcus at his parents' house. He called me an hour later, screaming. You filed for divorce without even trying to work things out? What the hell is wrong with you? What's wrong with me? I laughed, and it was a bitter sound. Marcus, I found the credit card statements, the hotels, the jewelry, the restaurants. I know. Silence on the other end of the line. Were you cheating on me? Is that where the money went? All those transfers from our joint account? Or they to wine and dine someone else? It's not what you think. Then what is it? Explain it to me. More silence. Then quietly, her name is Jessica. I met her 2 years ago at a conference. It was supposed to be just a one-time thing, but it turned into more. But it didn't mean anything, Meg. It was just physical. You and I were the real relationship. I sat down heavily on the couch. 2 years.
He'd been cheating on me for 2 years. I'd been sleeping next to him, making him dinner, planning our future, and he'd been with someone else. Did you use our money to pay for hotels with her? Our money from the joint account? It wasn't like I was taking food off our table. It was just a little here and there. $4,000 last year, Marcus, at least. That's not a little. That's a vacation. That's months of groceries. That's money we could have used for things we actually needed. But instead, you spent it on another woman. Right, he said, and I heard tears in his voice. You're right, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But Meg, please, don't do this. Don't throw away our marriage over money and a mistake. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll end things with Jessica. I'll do whatever it takes. Do you even hear yourself? You're not sorry you cheated. You're sorry you got caught. And you're only trying to fix things now because you want half of Granny's money. If she hadn't died, if I hadn't inherited anything, would you have ever told me? Would you have ever stopped? He didn't answer. That's what I thought. I said, don't call me again unless it's through your lawyer. I hung up and sat in the silence of my living room, in the house that had been my home for 8 years. And I cried, not for Marcus, not for the marriage, but for the version of myself who'd been so naive, who'd trusted so completely, who'd never seen this coming. It's hard. Then I dried my eyes and called Patricia. I have all the evidence you need, I told her. Let's end this. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Marcus's lawyer tried every angle. They claimed the inheritance should be considered marital property because it had been received during the marriage. Patricia shut that down with case law and Granny's clearly worded will. They claimed Marcus was entitled to spousal support because he'd supported me emotionally during my grandmother's illness. Patricia pointed out that Marcus made $20,000 more per year than I did and had no grounds for alimony. They tried to claim that Marcus deserved compensation for the emotional distress of the divorce. Patricia presented the credit card statements and hotel receipts, and that argument died quickly.
Then Sharon and David filed their own lawsuit against me, personally. They claimed that I'd promised them money from the inheritance and was now reneging on that promise. They wanted $50,000. I sat in Patricia's office, staring at the lawsuit papers, feeling like I'd entered an alternate universe. They're suing me? Can they do that? I can file whatever they want. Doesn't mean they'll win. Do you have any documentation of this alleged promise? Any emails, texts, recorded conversations? No, because I never promised them anything. They asked, I said no. That was it. Then this will get thrown out. It's a frivolous lawsuit, probably meant to intimidate you or pressure you into settling. We'll file a motion to dismiss, and unless they have evidence we don't know about, a judge will toss it.
But it still cost me money. Legal fees to fight both the divorce and the lawsuit. Stress, sleepless nights. I stopped eating regularly, dropped 10 pounds I couldn't afford to lose. My coworkers at the bookstore started asking if I was okay. I lied and said I was fine. The only bright spot was my friends and family. Amy called me every day just to check in. My parents drove down from their retirement community in Florida to stay with me for a week. My best friend Rachel, who I'd known since college, showed up with wine and ice cream and let me cry on her shoulder. I can't believe I married him, I said to Rachel one night. How did I not see this? How did I not know? Because he didn't want you to see, Rachel said gently. Guys like Marcus, they're good at hiding who they really are. They tell you what you want to hear. They play the part. And then when something happens, when there's money or power or control at stake, the mask comes off. I feel so stupid. You're not stupid. You're human. You trusted someone you loved. That's not stupid. That's normal. What he did, what his parents did, that's on them, not you. 3 months after I filed for divorce, we had our first major court hearing. It was for the division of assets and the determination of whether the inheritance was marital property. I sat next to Patricia in the courtroom, my hands folded in my lap, while Marcus and his lawyer presented their case. They argued that Granny had been old and possibly not of sound mind when she made her will. They argued that the inheritance should be split because we'd been married at the time. They argued that I'd promised to share the money with Marcus and was now breaking that promise. They didn't have evidence for any of it, just arguments and implications and suggestions. Then it was our turn. Patricia presented Granny's letter to me, which Linda Chen had authenticated as being written in Granny's own hand while she was clearly of sound mind. She presented bank statements showing that I'd kept the inheritance completely separate from marital funds. She presented the credit card statements showing Marcus's infidelity and financial misconduct. And then she called me to the stand. "Miss Parker," Patricia said, "can you tell the court what your relationship with your grandmother was like?" I took a breath. She raised me for part of my childhood. When my mother was struggling with depression, Granny took me in. She fed me, clothed me, helped me with my homework. She taught me to bake and to budget and to save money. She was my best friend. And did she ever discuss her financial situation with you? Not in detail. I knew she was careful with money. I knew she and my grandfather had saved and invested, but I had no idea how much she had until after she died. Did you ever promise to share this inheritance with your husband or his parents? No, never. His parents asked for money multiple times. I said no every time. Marcus wanted to use it to pay off his personal debts and his car loan. I said I needed time to think about it. I never promised anything. Why did you want to keep the inheritance separate? I looked at Marcus, sitting at the other table. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Because my grandmother left it specifically to me. She wrote me a letter telling me to keep it in my own name, to use it for my own security. And because I'd recently discovered that Marcus had been taking money from our joint account without telling me, thousands of dollars over several years, I realized I couldn't trust him with money, or with anything else. The judge listened to everything, reviewed all the documentation, and then made his ruling. The inheritance was mine. Completely, legally mine. It would not be divided. It was separate property, clearly gifted to me alone, and kept properly separate from marital funds. Marcus got nothing. The judge also ruled that because of Marcus's infidelity and financial misconduct, he was not entitled to any spousal support. We would split the marital assets 50-50, which amounted to the furniture in our house, 2 cars, and about $8,000 in our joint savings account. Everything else was separate. Sharon and David's lawsuit was dismissed the next week. The judge called it frivolous and without merit, and ordered them to pay my legal fees for defending against it, $12,000. Hard. I walked out of that courthouse 6 months after Granny died, legally separated from Marcus with the divorce pending final approval, and I felt like I could breathe for the first time in half a year. Patricia hugged me on the courthouse steps. "You did it," she said. "You protected your grandmother's gift. You protected yourself. Thank you," I whispered. "For everything. You did the hard part. You stood up for yourself. A lot of women in your position don't. They cave to the pressure, give away what's rightfully theirs just to keep the peace. You didn't. You should be proud of that." The divorce was finalized 2 months later. Marcus signed the papers without contest. He'd moved in with Jessica, I learned through mutual friends. They were already talking about getting engaged. This is hard. I wished them well. Not out loud, but in my heart. I hoped Jessica knew what she was getting into. I hoped Marcus had learned something from this disaster. But mostly, I just hoped I'd never have to think about either of them again. I moved out of the rental house we'd shared. Too many memories. Too many ghosts. I found a small apartment closer to the bookstore.
with big windows and a little balcony where I could drink my coffee in the morning. And then I started figuring out who I was without Marcus, without the weight of his needs and his parents' demands, and the constant pressure to be smaller, quieter, more accommodating. I went to therapy. A wonderful woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, who helped me understand that I'd been in the pattern of people-pleasing my entire life, that I'd been so afraid of conflict, so desperate to be liked, that I'd let people take advantage of me.
Your grandmother's gift, Dr. Chen said during one session, it wasn't just the money, it was permission. Permission to put yourself first, permission to have boundaries, permission to say no. She was right. Granny had given me more than financial security. She'd given me the catalyst I needed to completely change my life. I started saying no at work when my boss asked me to cover extra shifts without additional pay. I started saying no to friends who only called when they needed something. I started saying no to my own guilty conscience that told me I was being selfish for wanting things for myself. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, I started to heal. 8 months after Granny died, I used part of the inheritance to do something I'd dreamed about for years. I opened my own bookstore. Not a big one, just a small shop in a converted house on the edge of downtown, with cozy reading nooks and a cafe in the back that served the coffee and pastries I'd learned to make from Granny's recipes. I called it Eleanor's after her. My parents came to the grand opening. Amy flew in with her kids. Rachel helped me cut the ribbon, while a local photographer took pictures for the newspaper. Marcus wasn't there. Sharon and David weren't there. And she'd been right. About everything. I'm standing in Eleanor's now, a year after Granny died. It's early morning before we open. I'm drinking coffee from one of the mugs Granny collected, each one from a different place she and Grandpa traveled over their 50 years together. The inheritance is mostly gone. The bookstore took a significant investment. Legal fees took more. I have enough left for a decent emergency fund and some retirement savings, carefully invested just like Granny would have wanted. But I don't regret a single dollar spent, because I'm free. Free from a marriage that was hollow at its core. Free from people who saw me as a resource to be exploited. Free to build a life that's entirely mine. I think about Marcus sometimes. I heard through the grapevine that he married Jessica 6 months ago. I heard his parents are already pressuring them about grandchildren, already making demands on their time and money. I feel sorry for Jessica. I hope she has better boundaries than I did. But mostly, I don't think about them at all. They're part of my past, and I'm focused on my future. My future includes this bookstore, where I'm building a community of readers and dreamers. It includes the writing class I'm taking on Thursday nights, working on the novel I always said I'd write someday. It includes coffee dates with friends who actually care about me. It includes solo trips to places I've always wanted to see. It includes being alone, yes, but not lonely. Never lonely. Because I've learned the difference between being alone and being lonely. Being alone is a choice, a gift, a space to grow. Being lonely is what I was in my marriage, surrounded by people who didn't really see me. I'm 48 now, starting over in a way I never imagined I'd have to, but starting over with resources and knowledge and boundaries that make it feel less like failure and more like rebirth. Granny used to tell me that life is long if you live it right, that you have time to make mistakes and correct them, that it's never too late to become who you're meant to be. She was teaching me even then, preparing me for the lessons I'd need later. Teaching me that money is just money, but self-respect is priceless. That you can't put a price on freedom.
that some relationships cost more than they're worth. The inheritance war ended my marriage, yes, but it saved my life. It showed me the truth about people I thought I knew. It gave me the resources to leave, to start over, to build something new. And most importantly, it taught me that I'm enough, just me, without a husband, without in-laws, without anyone's approval but my own.
I finish my coffee and unlock the door to Eleanor's. A customer is already waiting outside, a regular who comes in every morning for coffee and the newspaper. She smiles at me, and I smile back. This is my life now, this quiet, intentional, hard-won life that's completely, entirely mine, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Granny knew what she was doing when she left me that money. She wasn't just giving me financial security. She was giving me the tools to discover who I really was underneath all the people-pleasing and accommodating and making myself small. She was giving me permission to be brave, to be free, to be myself. Thank you, Granny, for everything. For the money, yes, but more for the love. For believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself. For teaching me that I was worth protecting, worth fighting for, worth everything. I carry you with me every single day, in this bookstore, in the boundaries I maintain, in the life I'm building.
You saved me, and I promise I won't waste the gift you gave me. I promise I'll live the life you always knew I deserved.